installment of the Citizens Government Academy. My name is Stacy Anderson. I am a City Council member from Ward 5, which is South Hills, Linda Vista, Miller Creek area. I'm in the middle of my second term on council, and I am the chair of the Public Safety, Health, and Operations Committee, which is the committee that oversees the fire department, the police department, our interactions with the health board, and then some very nerdy operations things like buying, software systems and things like that internally at the city. So thanks everyone for coming out and being involved. Tonight is one of the funnest academies. I know I'm biased on this, but you'll get to see a demonstration from SWAT, meet the K-9 unit, learn CPR, see the jaws of life in hand. But before we get to the tour and the interactive parts, we're going to hear from Fire Chief Gordy Hughes and Assistant Fire Chief Brad Davis. And then we also will hear from Police Chief Collier and Assistant Chief Rosling from the Missoula Police Department. So they will talk to you about all the important work that their various departments do to keep us safe, and then we'll get to have some interactive stuff. So I guess questions quickly, but while you have me up here, random city council things? No? Okay, well, I'll be here all night, so have fun, ask lots of good questions, and y'all are in good hands, so thanks so much.
All right, thank you, Councilwoman Anderson. Like she said, my name is Gordy Hughes. I'm the Fire Chief of the Missoula Fire Department. Been with the department now 30 years, so I'm a little long in the tooth, but hopefully I can still stand upright and suck wind, but if I can't, I've got a good host of characters behind me. I will teach you how to do CPR tonight and beat on people's chests to keep them alive. I know last year there was a lot of good questions, but we ran out of time. I'm going to try to blaze through these slides as quickly as I can to save time for the questions, because I love an interaction, and the questions are generally what fuel me to go on and speak more intelligently about our department and what we do for our community. So, without further ado. The Missoula Fire Department's mission is to save lives, we protect property, and we ease pain and suffering. We ease pain and suffering by ensuring that we stop people's bleed, stop the pain and ache, and try to make their worst day a little better than what they are encountering there at that time of their emergencies. Our vision, we want to be recognized as the premier public safety organization, respected among our peers across the community and across the state and the region of Montana. We pride ourselves on leading the charge in innovation here at Missoula, standing up our mobile support team to help people in mental health crisis. We lead the charge in a lot of aspects with rescue, hazardous materials response, fire response, and EMS. We have 5 stations located strategically around the city. Station 4 is where we are today on Latimer. You can see we're over here. Station 1, our headquarters station, is on Pine Street. Station 2 is in the University District, Mount Avenue. Station 3 is at 39th and Russell. And Station 5 is in Lower Miller Creek. Each area is, each station is responsible for a district that they protect and as their primary response area. But as I will speak to later, that when we have simultaneous calls going on, many times these stations are moving to cover, backfill those stations, and we leave potentially holes around the city uncovered because of the nature of the work we do, and we need manpower and we need to shuffle those resources around to cover the emergencies. I'll speak to the emergencies and what it takes to respond to a structure fire, car accident, simple EMS call. But that is where our stations are located in the city. Our operations division, they are the big red truck folks that you see going down the road. We call those pumper trucks or engines, and they have a crew staff, a minimum of a captain, a driver, and a tailboard firefighter. So 3 at a minimum on a fire engine. We also have ladder trucks that, one station north of the river here at Station 4 and another one at Station 3. So on a typical structure fire, we will roll 3 engines and a ladder truck, and our command staff personnel, which is a battalion chief who oversees the shift. And so our minimum staffing with all 5 stations at any one time, we don't go below 15 persons in the city. Actually 16 with our battalion chief, but 3 firefighters stationed at each station around the city. Car accidents, we will roll 2 engines typically for car accidents because they become more complex. We'll have potential for extrication, which we'll demonstrate tonight, with the vehicle out in the bay. But those become more intensive and labor intensive. We need manpower on those events. I will speak a little more to that as we progress, but I need to blaze through, as I mentioned. Our Fire Prevention Bureau consists of the fire marshal, the assistant fire marshal, and 3 fire inspectors. Their job is code enforcement, so they ensure that structures, commercial structures are code compliant and are safe for people to enter and safe for firefighters in the event of emergencies. They also are tasked with public education and investigation of fires, cause and origin for fires. Our training and EMS division consists of our training officer and our emergency medical services coordinator, Dave Smith, who's located in the back. Mike Thurlow is our training officer in the back. Thank you, gentlemen, for being here. They're going to be your hands-on instructors tonight. So, along with Garrett Venners, he's a captain with our department. Emily Garlow, firefighter. Cameron Fuller, one of our newer hires, is a firefighter. Bob Zeus is a fire inspector who belongs to this division. Our maintenance division. So we do fleet maintenance. We don't have to farm things out for our vehicles or our stations unless they get a little bigger than what we can deal with. We do routine maintenance on the engines and make sure that they're roadworthy and pump tested and everything is ready to go tip-top shape for those, and general maintenance on our facilities. There are 3 individuals within the maintenance division. Health and Wellness Division was a newly created position to deal with firefighter peer wellness, so mental health and physical well-being. Also, our health and wellness coordinator who oversees that division provides oversight and oversees the mobile support team from the fire department. And so here's a little more about the mobile support team. Since inception, when we stood them up in 2020, the year of the pandemic, which was a very trying time for everyone, not to mention standing up a whole new division for the fire department. But that year, through the trial period, we responded to 92 calls, and as you can see, 2022, we haven't gotten our data for 2023. For 2022, they responded to 2,130 calls for service, individuals in crisis. Next is our administrative division. That's where myself, Brad fall, and Assistant Chief Philip Keating. Also, we have 3 administrative assistants who are the backbone and the blood and guts of the department. We can't move without those folks. Current staffing and our call volume. We have 80 firefighters assigned to our operations division, which is broken down into 4 shifts. Each shift has 20 firefighters when we're fully staffed. As I mentioned, there's 16 firefighters at any one given time at a minimum on the street. And then the remaining 4 provide for vacation coverage or if people are out injured, they will backfill. Rarely do we see more people on the streets than the 16, purely because of vacation coverage and staffing due to illnesses. FMLA people have children, believe it or not, in the fire department, and so we're all mostly parents in the department. So we have remained at 80 firefighters since 2008 when Station 5 opened up in the Lower Miller Creek area. Our call volume, as you can see, 10 years out, well, 2012 to 2022, the increase in our call volume has gotten 15% from 6,500 calls for service to 10,000 calls. Last year's numbers in 2023, we've surpassed 12,000 calls for service. Again, these are 2022 numbers, so I apologize we haven't reconciled our numbers for this last year. So I'll come back and visit us next year and I'll have those for you if you're curious. But in 2022, we had 10,863 calls for service. This is a graph that shows where the calls were broken up into the districts relative to those calls. I had a great question yesterday, did a presentation for council for our EMS study, and one of the questions that we had was, how do you account for those calls relative to, you've got 4 or 5 engines going on a structure fire. Does that mean that you have 4 calls relative to that call? And each call in and of themselves, one structure fire, even though we send perhaps 4 or 5 apparatus on that call, is only one call. So it isn't relative to how many pieces of apparatus are moving, but relative to that event. Busiest times of the day, Thursday, believe it or not. And I can say that Thursday, this year's stats, it remains the busiest, believe it or not. During COVID, I checked that out. Mondays and Fridays were busy, believe it. I don't know if people, even though people were home and not working, still Mondays and Fridays were the busiest days. Call types, as I mentioned, structure fires and fires in general, they do not make up the bulk of our call volume. EMS, which is emergency medical, so our medical calls, we run and support, and also at times, rarely do we have 2 ambulances in our inventory, and if Missoula Emergency Services is backlogged and we have to provide for a surge, we have ambulances that can transport people in need. But we will always respond with MESI, Missoula Emergency Services, on medical aid calls. If we have a CPR call, which Dave is going to be demonstrating, we use what is called pit crew CPR, and it's very intensive with manpower requirements. We'll send 2 engines, so 6 individuals there, our battalion chief, the shift supervisor, and then MESI will provide 2 individuals on the ambulance. Each one of those people during a cardiac arrest, pit crew CPR, provides a single task, and then they can rotate, but generally we have people on the airway providing rescue breathing support, compression, if somebody's doing compression, somebody's got the defibrillator up to deliver shock. Other people are doing intravenous lines, trying to get an IV started, administering medications. It's quite intensive. We've seen a tremendous success in life saved out there in the street with this performance. It's the best thing that we've done medically here at NFP in the last, since I've been around here, 30 years. So it's great, and I'm glad that we brought it to the department some 6-7 years ago now, and it's paying dividends for people in the community. We have a lot more safes, and the safe rate is going. We respond to hazardous materials responses, the 301 responses. Service calls would be, give me an example of that. Garrett? What would we term as a service?
Just going to a fire, a smoke detector going off in someone's residential battery, the battery's probably dead. That's a good service call.
False alarms. Another one of those higher numbers. Good intent call would be, maybe we get called for somebody laying down in the street. We show up, they're fine. It's not a medical response. So we'll term those as a good intent call. Actually had 4 explosions back in 2022. Response times. Here's where the rubber really hits the road, and that's where we're starting to see an issue here in Missoula, is that we are not meeting the national standards with our time response. Time response takes place from when people are making that phone call in 911 to when we show up at that emergency scene. National standards puts the call to dispatch time at 60 seconds or less. But we're not hitting that mark. And then when we receive the call, the dispatch side of things, we try to be at every call 6 minutes or less. As you can see that we're over 6 minutes on our response time. Second due is help me out, Bradley.
What do you need, George?
Second due engines?
Yeah,
What's that?
so the second due engine, so this is gonna be, a little confusing, we don't wanna get too wrapped around the axles on this. So here's the response time objective, this is the national standard that we're talking about. For a fire, you wanna have an 80-second turnout time, that's gonna give you enough time to get your gear on, the structure gear. 60 seconds, we wanna be out the door for an EMS call. As you can see, we're missing those by a little bit, and the standards are all set at a 90 percentile. And so the first due engine is a 4 minute, that's gonna be your travel time, so you get your gear on, you head out the door. From the time you roll out the door until you arrive on scene, we want that to be 4 minutes or less, 90% of the time. And we're missing that by 2 minutes and 16 seconds. Your second due engine, they want that due, so this is gonna be for motor vehicle accident or structure fire, anything that requires more than 1 engine. And typically, they give you a little bit more time because we only have 1 engine per district, so a second due engine is gonna have to be coming from another district, so they give you a couple of extra minutes. Again, at the 90th percentile, and we're missing the mark by about 4 minutes on that second due engine. So there's a lot of factors that go into that, how busy we are, if they're on another call, how far away the station is they're coming from, traffic congestion, road conditions, etc. That's why that buffer is built in there for that 90th percent of time, so you can't do it every time, but we're still missing that mark of the national standard due to varying reasons, and the most likely cause is we're too dang busy and we just need more people and more staffing and more fire stations. So these are really good measurable for us to see when we're not meeting that minimum standard and we need to do something about it. So and then this initial full alarm. So they have a standard for different types of risks. So basically, if you have a structure fire, they want you to have your first full complement, which is going to be the 3 engines, the ladder truck, and the battalion chief at that structure fire within 8 minutes. We do pretty good on that, but we're still a little short of getting that full complement on the scene of a structure fire or a bigger type hazard.
Perfect. Thanks,
All right.
Brad.
Yep.
I was just started talking. No. There's QR code if you want to know more about our department. That link should be okay to work if you're interested. And at this time, I'll take any questions.
Are the districts set by like geographic distance or by population? Like how are those?
They're
decided?
geographic and then road travel, so we try to identify these polygons to get within those time areas. One area that is kind of suffering right now that wasn't taken into consideration is the industrial park and airport area where we annexed. And now the growth out in Westmoreland. And all the other drainages continue to grow out, and so it's pushing our boundaries out. We're implementing a station location study this coming month, which will identify perhaps we need to reorient the districts a little bit so we can meet those changing dynamics from, our traffic's changing here in Missoula with the amount and volume that we're seeing out there. So we may draw some different geographic boundaries, but they are relative to time.
And later on today, we have a map in the station with all of our districts. I'll definitely, if you guys want to take a look at it, I'll kind of show you what that looks like in just a big wall map. Pretty interesting to look at.
I noticed that Station 5 had a lot fewer calls in 2022 than the rest of them. Do you know why that is?
I would have to say that there's not a lot of infrastructure in that area as far as like business infrastructure. It doesn't draw as much out of area of people as, if that makes sense, like the downtown area. The residences are newer residences, so we don't have a lot of structure fires in those areas with new building construction and codes relative to that. We have an aging demographic in that area, so we're seeing an uptick in higher, not morbidity of calls, but more intense, like cardiac calls and stuff from our aging demographic in that area. Just the call volume, I think, is relative to the aging or the demographic there, and not having an older construction type style of dwellings in that area.
Chief, could I prompt you with a question on this?
Absolutely.
When you were talking earlier about the different districts and how people are busy, there are times where Station 5 will bring their truck down closer to the edge of their district.
Yes.
Would you maybe explain that a little bit?
Sure. Just because of the relevance of the numbers, those numbers that you see, like I mentioned, they are calls that are occurring within that district. It doesn't mean that that engine isn't out facilitating other responses to backup districts. If Station 3 is out on a call in their district and another call comes in within District 3 area, 5 will go to that call, but it will count in that district as call. So yes, even though the numbers in the district, those incidents aren't taking place within the district. So if y'all want to move to Linda this area, it may be safer.
And then you would get me as your councilwoman, so.
Or your team could be somewhere else.
Yes.
So those 10,000 plus calls that you're having every year, I think I was doing some quick math, I think it comes out like almost 40 calls a day. Is that divided fairly evenly from day to day, or is it, like, do you guys have like your peaks and valleys from month to month? Is it
We're pretty consistent in that. I think maybe the numbers most recently around 42 to 46 calls a day. Our busiest stations are 1 and 4. I have to say that they are picking up the lion's share of the calls, so then stations 2 and 3 have to backfill in those areas when those units are out on calls.
Do you have the resources to fight electric vehicle fires?
We have the resources. The equipment is another question. Yeah, we have.
Let's lump that together.
I'll let Garrett speak to that. Garrett,
Yeah, so that's been coming up, right? I mean, it's here. Other departments across the nation have been experiencing some tough times with those. Takes a lot of water and a lot of time. So in one LA fire, just to let you know, in LA they had one about 3 years ago. Took 30,000 gallons of water to put it out. It's a lot of time on scene. So that's what we're going to be doing here at this moment in time. We don't have the
Dunk tank
yet that they do in Europe, where they just pick it up with a big crane and dunk it, and then they haul it off.
Okay.
Great business opportunity. But
$1 million idea.
but you'd have to charge a lot, right? Because we don't have them yet.
Yeah.
We haven't had a fire yet for one. So anyways, yeah, it's going to take a lot of water. That's what we have right now for that.
Yeah.
Oftentimes with those types of fires, is they'll get put out, they'll get hauled out to the wrecking yard, and then they'll rekindle the fire because of the batteries are still.
Right. They reignite the fire.
So I have a related question on that. Is that considered an electrical fire or a chemical fire? Or, and would foam make any difference?
Yeah, I'm not, I think it's still considered both right now at this point in time. When you get that, I don't know how those batteries are actually put together, you know, if they have a lot of liquids in them or not. I don't know. Do they? Lithium battery, if it's
an electric fire.
If it's a lithium battery, right, then it's not gonna have a lot of that, the old style liquid coming out of it, right? So, we have not fought one yet. We're still learning each and every day, and we're gonna teach a class on it in-house this coming up, fall. So, we're still compiling all the evidence for them. So, right now, we're just gonna treat it as we would a normal, we are gonna put foam and water on it. Hit it with both.
You know, I got one more question, kind of in regards to these lithium fires. Do you guys see more of those as lithium batteries are in like more and more products, or like, is there any sort of correlation with more of those being in the house?
Let's let
And
the
fires
fire
associated with them?
investigator himself speak to that.
Yeah, I think so, and I think that the trend is that the more you see them, the more we're gonna keep seeing them. But I think right now it's still kind of in the incipient stage of that.
I think a lot of them go on unreported, like batteries within your computers. I think people probably just do what they can to get rid of them. I was actually in the Fire Prevention Bureau years ago and had a couple of investigations with the lithium. One was an explosion of an e-cigarette. Actually took out an individual's teeth. It was pretty brutal, but yeah, those are going to pop up more. We'll see the skateboards and all the alternative modes of travel batteries.
So, you mentioned that in 2023, you're already over the 12,000 calls. That seemed to be a lot more of a jump from 2022 to 2023 than previous years. Is there anything like trend that's
What's
driving that? Yeah.
I don't have the breakdown of the call typing. I'd have to assume that there are EMS calls, emergency medical calls, because they are 65% of what we do currently, that is just shooting up.
I was just asking because we seem to hear a lot more about structure fires, at least in the last month.
Yeah, we've had
there's been a lot of them, and car wrecks.
Exciting
Yeah.
explosions. Houses blown up, foundations.
How many on your crew are paramedic trained as well?
Oh, Dave, question for you.
We're probably 35% paramedics and the rest EMTs, roughly.
On the line, so are we at saturation for operations?
I want more.
We don't have 40 firefighters in operations right now, Mike.
That are medics?
Yeah.
We might be, 35 to 40, I'd say.
Should be close to 50% of operations. We're trying to get, that's our golden standard is the paramedic, so they can render the most life-saving skills.
For each
for each member of the crew, that's the goal, is to have everyone be?
That would be optimal, but if we can have one paramedic on every engine at
Okay.
any given time, that would be optimal.
Your response times being too long is a really compelling reason to increase the fire department size. And I just wonder how many years, you showed us the graph of the call volume going up with the same number of firefighters, but how many years has it been that you've kind of been over that 90% benchmark?
Brad, you just did those numbers for our master fire plan, and
I did, and we did a master fire plan in 2006, 8, kind of right, in 2006, right before we added staffing, we did a pretty good study, and we were starting to dip below those numbers at that time. And then there wasn't a whole lot of data pulled between that 2008 time and 2019, which is when we did our master fire plan. In 2019, we were below those numbers, and they've just progressively gotten a little bit worse. So I know for at least the last 5 years, we've been struggling to maintain and to meet that national response time.
Okay.
Before that, I'd just be guessing without going back and actually pulling data. But definitely recovery kind of in 2008 with a big increase in staffing and station, and then not a lot of data pulled between then and in 2019, 5 years ago, we were below the national standard for response times again.
So what are we gonna do about that, chief?
well, we had, we got the council last summer to go to the voters for a levy during fall's last election. We pulled that due to the atmosphere with the increase in home valuations and the increase in taxation for property taxes. We've reevaluated that, and next Wednesday we will be going in front of council to make that pitch again to try to bolster our firefighters and ask for more support staff.
Do you get any other funding besides from the city and taxes and levies?
We're completely funded out of the general fund, which is from
Okay.
property taxes.
Okay.
We have grant opportunities, and I'm speaking with Kathy back there, that we can go after federal funding, which would provide 100% funding for firefighters for 3 years. And we will apply for that grant again this year. We did last grant cycle, but were unsuccessful. It's a very competitive grant. 1,500 agencies across the country applied for $300 million, but the 1,500 applicants, the total of what they were applying for was $3 billion. So it's very competitive. We will apply.
You have about 5 minutes, chief.
Okay. Yes, sir.
I moved here from a small town in eastern Montana 5 years ago, and they were having a problem with water supply because the pipes have been corroded or they've been calcified too much. Is that a factor? Because it actually cost the city more money, or at least the residents, because the insurance went up because they couldn't get enough water out of the fire hydrants. So is that a problem here? Or is
No, and what you're speaking to, what I'm assuming, because of the increase in insurance, is because of their ISO rating. ISO is what sets the premiums for your fire, what is assigned on your policies for fire protection and your fire, or your insurance premiums. We have a rating system in the US that is 1 to 10, 10 being the worst, 1 being the best. We are at 3 in the city of Missoula. The rating is based on the 911 system and how fast they can dispatch and the adequacies or the efficiencies that they have. The other is water supply that you speak of. So if you've got poor water supply and you score poorly on that, your insurance, your ISO rating will go up. And each point, I'm told, is a 10% increase or decrease, depending on which way you go in your insurance premiums. So if you were at a 4 and your water supply was not up to snuff, you could be a fine or something. That would increase your rates by 10%. We are so close to a 2 here in the city that if we achieve that by more staffing, 911 system gets a little quicker on the dispatch, we could achieve that too, and everybody's insurance premiums would hopefully decrease by 10%. Cool. Yes, ma'am.
So I was gonna ask a different question, but then you got my math brain excited. Would the decrease basically cover the levy then?
It potentially could for like
And it would pay
businesses
for
and higher
itself?
pair premium. Yeah.
Would almost pay for itself. I mean, that's compelling. Which then, my next question is, are you just simply wanting more staff at each of the current stations, or weren't you wanting to add a 6th?
We want a 6th.
And is that west? Like,
Well,
where-
that's
where-
why we're gonna do the station study,
Oh,
because if they
right.
determine that that location out west is not, because our volume is midtown,
Right, then that's, yeah,
but it makes sense out there because of the travel times.
right, right.
Good question, thank you.
So is Russ, at what point do you get into county, you're out of the city, you don't service the county?
In fire protection, everybody's bound, you don't have areas that are unprotected, but if you do have areas that are unprotected, the sheriff's department actually provides fire protection. I don't know if the city PD guys knew that or not. But if you opt out of fire protection, the sheriff's department will come fight your fire for you, so. Good luck. But.
Or your volunteer.
Nothing against them.
No, but with your volunteer fire department in a rural area?
Yes, yeah. So we're bound with our brothers across Reserve Street, the Missoula Rural Fire Department. So where the city boundaries die is where they pick up their protection. But we also have mutual aid and auto aid agreements. If they're closer to a call, if you have a call in the city at Rosars and across the street, they will come. If it's a medical aid, if it's something that requires more manpower and equipment, we will roll in conjunction with them. It makes sense to send the quickest unit, even though it is, our tax base we're protecting out there. They are trained at the same level, they provide the same manpower, and so you're not getting shortchanged. Occurs there. Question?
You on the back row there, chief?
Yes, sir.
How is it possible for the 911 dispatch to get faster?
That's a good question. More employees. They're understaffed, not because they don't have a threshold for hiring. They are never up to full staffing. I think it's just the nature of the work. Very stressful, 4 hours, and you're meeting people right there in their worst moment. I think it takes a toll on people, and they find out quickly that they don't like the job that they sign on for. If we get solid staffing there, then there are also other means of dispatch. They use a system for the medical side of dispatch down there called EMDs, emergency medical dispatch. And they go through a flip chart, an algorithm of questions regarding somebody's illness or injury or whatever. And they have to go through and meet those. Otherwise, there's some legal potential that if they don't hit those marks and dispatch wrongly or just don't hit one of those benchmarks, they could be liable. We're trying to see if they can modify and change that system up so it can get us out the doors quicker. If they are just to give us an address and tell us that this is a medical call, we can at least start our way, and then through our mobile data terminals, they can provide the updated information while we're out. It doesn't help if the call is across the street from our station 1. There's a situation where we need police backup and support. But we're hoping to advance 911's abilities and get that ISO rating Do it too.
Well, that's a perfect segue into, thank you, Chief Hughes. Question about 911, but that's actually ran by the county, so. All citizens. Well, I mean, it's important to, you know, as we live in the city, we're also county taxpayers, so that is important. But we are now gonna turn it over to the other side of public safety and hear from our chiefs and the Missoula Police Department.
Hello, everybody. Give me just 1 second to get plugged in here. Run. Good evening. My name is Mike Collier. I have the honor of being your police chief. I haven't been here to this particular event since the winter of 2019-2020. My experience back then was to give really high level, kind of minimalist information and hope that it will drive conversation and questions. And so I kind of copied that role tonight. So you'll see we only have about 6 or 7 slides, but we're hoping to generate some conversation. This is Assistant Chief Jake Rosling. We're going to kind of divide this up half and half here and try to pull some conversation out of you. Also, so our command staff is 3 captains and 2 chiefs, me and Jake, and then we have a patrol captain, an administrative captain, and a detective captain. 2 of them are here. On the far right of the cops there, Ed McLean sitting down. He is our detective captain. And to his right, in the middle there, is Matt Stonecipher. He's a uniformed patrol captain. And the admin captain is on a boat somewhere in the Mediterranean or so we'll take that out on him when we get back. But we'll be around for all of the participation in the bays there. Our mission statement, I'm not going to read it verbatim. I'm going to pull some phrases that I think are important out of this. Community oriented. So community oriented policing, we could talk for hours about it, but in a nutshell, it is about a partnership and a relationship with your community. It is the polar opposite of an us versus them or an occupying type force mentality. How do you build a community-oriented relationship with your community? What we're doing tonight, right now, is part of that. Events like this is really important. Last night was about the 7th session of our Citizen Law Enforcement Academy. Follow us on our socials, you can sign up for next year. And it's much like this, but it is about our department. So, each one of your sessions is about a different department within the government, right? But our academy is about different areas within our department. So we do things like that, the National Night Out and drug takebacks, all of those things are part of community-oriented policing. In my opinion, it is a distant second to the way you build relationships with the community, which is each individual transaction, day by day, hour by hour throughout the year. You'll see our call load was about 56,000 calls last year. So on about 56,000 opportunities in the year, we get an opportunity to establish a community-oriented policing relationship with our community. So that's the first speaking point. Professional police service. Professional does not always mean just being your best friend. Sometimes the police have dirty work to do. It doesn't always photograph well, but it needs to be professional, lawful, and morally sound. That's what we're looking for. We understand that not every transaction or interaction people leave being thrilled with what occurred, but as long as we're doing it professionally, we're doing it legally and at the highest levels of ethical standard, that's what is important. Improving our quality of life and the livability of our community. Not everything we do is cops and robbers, car chases, traffic stops, taking people to jail, arresting DUI offenders. That is a portion of it. But a big part of what we do in improving the quality of life for all of you and the livability of our city is around problem solving. It's about making your day better. It's about making your neighborhood more comfortable, making you feel safe. Some of that stuff is just barely touches even on, kind of a criminal activity. But we invest in it because it's important to people. It's important that we get the nuisance, the loud party down the street kind of handled, or that we can get the traffic moving after a crash so that you can get to work. So those things that are not really high profile criminal conduct, criminal investigations, they're important to the quality of life and the livability of our community. That's all big, those are all parts about what go into our overall mission. The next slide, I don't know if I let down technology or it let me down, but I'm missing an entire slide here. So you're not gonna be able to follow along on the screen when I talk about the guiding principle I've been promoting since I've become the chief, and that is one of what I've called ethical excellence. In order, I'll break that down quickly for you. Ethics being first, appropriately enough, because to me it is the most important thing. Our ethical conduct has to be absolutely above reproach in all we say and all we do. So we can have the best training, and I think statistically we have the most training of any law enforcement agency in the state. You can have the best equipment, and I'm sure we're in the top three of those. You can have the coolest cars, you can have all that stuff. None of it matters if people don't trust you. So you build trust along, when I talked about these community events are part of it, but you build trust in each one of those interactions. You don't exaggerate a word to justify use of force. You don't take editorial creativity in some paragraph on an application for a search warrant to get your search warrant. You're absolutely holding yourself to the highest standards in all you say and all you do. And when you do that 56,000 times a year, little by little you develop and you maintain, in our fortunate situation, we maintain trust with our community because I think we already have that good relationship there. I was doing a swearing in about, a month ago or so, and Gwen Jones from the council president heard me give my little speech here. And she said, how much she agrees with that, and she describes it as, every positive transaction, every opportunity you have to build trust with the community, you're putting a drop of water into this bucket. And then when you screw up majorly, you dump all that trust out, you dump all that water out. And I told Gwen, I am so stealing that. So our ethical conduct is first and foremost and can never be second to anything. The excellence piece of that I view in kind of two different, there's two pieces to that. The first part of that is I want our officers to be approachable, engaging, friendly, respectful to the people that they come across. And you're thinking, ooh, really big high standard there, Chief. Shouldn't every employer ask that? And it's easy for bank tellers to, for banks to tell their tellers to be polite to people. And it's easy for someone selling cars, be nice to people. That's always easy. The difference with us is that the person we're interacting with may have just killed somebody, or the person that we're interacting with may be making a plan to kill us or to escape. And so you have to be professional and courteous and respectful to people, all the while having a script, so to speak, running in the back of your head that, to be able to take care of business is the way I politely put it. And taking care of business may mean if this person suddenly tries to attack somebody else, if this person tries to flee, whatever happens where you have to do the dirty work, you have to be able to do that. So it's a little bit of an art. For me to stand here and be completely engaging with you where you feel comfortable and not threatened by me, but to have the skills and training and equipment to be able to use force appropriately, act appropriately to control situations, and have you never feel threatened by that is a bit of an art. And you've got to have both of it. So you can't be everybody loves the Barney Fife, but he is inept, right? He is super nice, but he can't handle a crisis. The flip side of that is we could hire all special forces that are total black belts and they can handle anything, but if they treat you all like the enemy, we can't handle that either. We have to have that sweet spot. I got a fan. You should have came to my union meeting. So holding yourself to the highest ethical conduct and then be able to strike that kind of sweet spot about treating people respectfully and being able to be an officer that can take care of business is what we ask them to do. Quick overview of our department. We're authorized 118 sworn police officers, and right now we're down about 8. Well, I just gave 2 conditional officers because conditional officers hired to 2 yesterday, and so hopefully start chipping away at that number soon and get back to full strength. Our authorized strength of non-sworn employees, anybody who doesn't carry a badge, is about 36 full-time equivalents. So not 36 separate employees. We have a number of half-time, partial-time positions that help us in support services. Our budget is about $23 million, and the vast majority of it goes into our people. They say your human resources is your most valuable asset. That's not just anecdotally, literally, that's where most of our money goes. We're really pretty lean on the operational side. What we need to make the world go around is good people. The way we divide our department up, a little bit of a spoiler alert, when I described the 3 captains, each captain runs one of those divisions. So we have Uniform Patrol Division, which is, fully staffed in the high 60s or so. The Detective Division has 20. Admin has 5 or so. Those are all the sworn divisions. We have a number of support staff, and then the command staff is the remaining 5 there. We haven't pulled out any questions or comments yet, huh? I'm gonna run out of PowerPoint slides if we don't get some discussion. Sir?
How many non-sworn persons do you have working?
Well, it's about the equivalent of 36, but, a lot of those are, or I should say, some of those are call-in and part-time positions. An example of some of the full-time non-sworn positions we have would include our property technician, who handles all property and evidence in the warehouse, crime scene technician, digital evidence tech, transcriptionist, we do verbatim transcriptions, all of our records people, so they're kind of, spread out throughout the department. There's a few in patrol too, our crash investigators and our community service specialists, those are all non-sworn. Thanks, yes?
What does sworn mean?
Badges, police officers.
Right, but so there's an oath.
We say sworn because you take an oath. Yeah.
Okay.
Sorry for the cop lingo.
I was just wondering.
Yeah. Yes, ma'am.
So, what's a sworn administrative officer? You said there's a few of those.
Well, they'll be sworn peace officers.
Oh, okay.
Police officers
Yeah.
assigned to the administrative division. And the administrative division does, so detectives is pretty obvious, right? Patrol's pretty obvious.
Well, right, that's why I was confused.
Administrative division does things like recruiting, hiring process, training.
Okay.
They administer promotion process and so on. And they also run, a big part of the admin is, it runs the Office of Professional Standards, which is common legal authority is internal affairs. So they do external complaint investigation and internal investigations. So. Sir?
Sorry, I just have one more. You said it was about 56 or so thousand calls you get every year? Or last year?
56 and change, right? Did you?
Something like that?
Yeah.
And how do you manage that with 110 officers? It's like a few calls an hour per officer.
Yeah, oh yeah. I mean, there's times there's no officers to go to, right? They're gonna pen, and it is all prioritized as it comes in. And so I was getting a little beat up at an event last summer about responding to calls. And my best analogy for it is if you are at the ER and you show up at the ER because you got a turned ankle, right? And you've been there, the guy in front of you went in, and so you think you're next. You've been there for 30 minutes. But someone comes in with chest pain, guess what? You're not going any further. The chest pain gets put in front of you. We prioritize that all the same too. So if it's a noise complaint and you called 30 minutes ago and you're just about up to get an officer queued to you, and then there's an assault in progress comes in, that's the way that just gets handled. But yeah.
Kind of related to that, I'm interested, what types of calls, I mean, you keep statistics on the type of calls you take, and I'm interested in, how that breaks down. And then time of day, part of the city, I mean, can you tell us a little more about that?
Yeah, so time of day is midday, midweek is really the highest call volume. We did a staffing study a couple of years ago, and that pointed out to us where we need to have more people. And so we have four squads that come on at various times throughout the day, and it's to build up kind of the arc of our traditionally highest call volume. It's when most people are out, going to work, going to school, using the roads, just a lot of people doing a lot of stuff. That's not necessarily the most critical crime, major crime. It doesn't necessarily happen in the middle of the day, but call volume is higher then because there's just more people out and about. In the middle of the night, sometimes we have some nasty stuff go on, but the call volume is generally going to be lower, and most people are home in bed. So, yeah. High call volume stuff. I don't know what it is, 700 and something DUIs or so last year. Disturbances. I don't know. Some of the
Person to be removed.
Yes, general disorder type calls are all pretty high. The violent crime stuff on the last reporting, annual report was, the big increase was still felony assaults was our highest of violent crime. Rape and homicide, thank goodness in our community are pretty low, and we'll keep it that way, but general disorder, assaults, confrontation, those are all high volume type calls. Yes, sir.
Thanks for explaining all this, it's great. I really appreciated when our fire department workers had the breakdown of the calls. Is there anywhere, and maybe it's in the next few slides, anywhere where we know the actual breakdown of like behavioral health related calls through MST or like mental health related detention center bookings around this, or like what we call like frequent users of systems and engagement? Is there like a public database that's accessible to understand where, you know, the actual breakdown of these?
Yeah, I don't have that kind of detail prepared for tonight, but I'd refer you to our annual report, which is on the website. And we are committed to getting the next annual report out by the end of March or so. So it takes a little bit of time for the previous year's data to roll in. So, but there's some pretty good, some pretty good data in the annual report.
Kind of a segue on that, do you guys have, like a lot of cities are starting to do now, is have a behavioral specialist that rides along with policemen? Do you have anything like that, or have you found a need for it yet?
Not with the police department. The fire department houses the mobile support team. And that's probably the resource that you're talking about. And so they live with the fire department. We have a close relationship with them. I think we might be your highest referring agency for work. You're welcome. You can come visit. But it's a really good relationship. They operate on our channel, and so we can call them on our MPD channel 1 to get them in there to get people plugged into resources. Because you're spot on. So much of what we get sent to is really behavioral health stuff. It may have a smidgen of criminal conduct to it. It may have no criminal conduct to it. And in those areas, we try to get them connected to MST. If there's a major criminal action, we need to take action. Something that sometimes gets lost in this is, for the best of intentions, people want to have compassion towards people in mental health crisis, as do all of us. We get that. But when there is a significant criminal act, we have to remember there's a victim on the other side of that too. The person can't just get a pass on the criminal conduct. So we handle that on the front end of that, and then the rest of the criminal justice system, if they can find some way, to help the person through resources and still be right by the victim, that's something maybe prosecutors can work out through crime victim advocates and so on. So it's kind of a blend of responses to some of those calls. Yes, sir.
Yeah, thank you. Missoula has a diversity of people and the newcomers. How do you deal with these people who don't speak other languages than English?
Yeah, so we have, we're transitioning from an existing service called Language Link, which was a way for us to call in and get a translator to help us. We're transitioning to Montana Language Services as part of a citywide initiative. And so there's some good value to this new one. It offers video conferencing, and we can make appointments, for like if one of our investigators needs to do an interview with somebody who doesn't speak English at all or not as a first language, then we have that interpreter there. Those services are also used with our prosecutors and courts, so that there's always the ability to they do sign language too and all that kind of stuff. So, and reviews are pretty good on it, that they answer pretty quickly and get to them.
And how can we try to solve that by learning those newcomer language? For example, to know the basic of those people who just come in. For example, for the Swahili one or Arabic one, to know the basic of those languages. Do you have plan to learn those before to interact with them?
I think I might need some help with that. Did you understand?
Is there any training that's going on right now to learn like basics, like hello, how are you, that kind of thing?
For our people.
Yeah. To, for Swahili and Arabic and.
There's not. We don't train on that. We just try to prioritize, the highest frequency stuff that we need to train on. And right now, I don't think we've identified the capacity to take that on.
Good question.
Yes.
Chief, what is your policy on high-speed pursuit in the city?
It is much like a use of force policy, where it gives you guidelines to make decisions about, what's developing at the time. A big part of it, the primary part of it is, the need to apprehend this person based on our need to apprehend them based on the threat to society. So oftentimes that's going to be evaluated initially about what is the person wanted for. A person wanted for a traffic violation, the need to apprehend that person goes way down. A person wanted for homicide, the need to apprehend that person goes way up. And there's a million shades of gray within this formula. And it's something, matter of fact, we just revised the policy, which will go live here any minute. And it puts a lot of factors into a bucket, and it asks our officers to make difficult decisions under, difficult circumstances. When in doubt, I hope they shut them down because they're very dangerous. But it keeps me up at night. But we've done a good job of really being responsible about what we're doing.
And there's requirements for the officers involved in the pursuits, information that they have to relay to the supervisors. So the supervisors are monitoring this the whole time. And if at any time they hear anything that they think they need to stop it, they'll shut it down. So,
Yeah.
and we really empower the officers to know that they can make that decision at any time as well. So, yeah.
That's good to know. I've gone on a few ride-alongs in the past, and those cars have a little get up and go.
Yeah.
So I was just curious, what the parameters might be.
I'm just going to describe what these special teams are to you because you're going to actually get to be engaged with them tonight. But our special weapons and tactics, it's our tactical team. They're responding to critical incidents, high-risk incidents that are beyond the resources of the existing patrol officers that are working. Crisis negotiation team, they're the negotiators. On planned operations, they work together. So if we're going to send SWAT out on a high-risk warrant, we'll send a negotiating element for that. On the off chance that becomes a barricade and then they need to talk that through. In an emergency response, then that works the same way that they would call out CNT to negotiate on like a barricade or hostage. And EOD, which is explosive ordnance disposal, they're the bomb guys. I think they're straight up crazy. It scares me to death. And we call them, or I call them, the firemen of the police department. Because SWAT goes and kicks a door and we get 10 complaints on it. But EOD goes and blows up someone's truck because it's got some old dynamite and they get a thank you card. I don't know how that works. Yeah. We'll hear all about those guys every day later, but Jake will pick it up for you.
So these are some of our special duty assignments.
Oops, sorry. I forgot I'm driving.
Yeah. So the detective division, we have about 20 detectives, persons crimes, general detectives, general investigations, narcotics. We have officers assigned to various task forces within the city. So the FBI Safe Streets Task Force, high drug trafficking, just to name a few of those. School resource officers, we have a total of 6. We have 1 assigned to every high school, and then we have 2 that go between all the middle schools. And then we also have 1 out at Hellgate Elementary, which is not a part of Missoula County Public Schools, but we still cover that. Our motor officers, we have 4 officers assigned. They ride motors when weather allows. 4 motorcycle officers and a sergeant that runs that unit. And then, like I said, this is just a sampling. Our digital forensics officer, which we have found over the years, that is blowing up as far as the volume of phones and things that are related to crimes. I mean, she's got a stack of phones that she's got to get through and download and interpret the information on it, and it just keeps growing and growing and growing. So, and then our training officers, that's within the administrative division. Like the chief said, I feel like we have more training than any other department in the state. We've gone to the point where now we average about 300 hours of post-certified training per officer per year. So if you knew where we came from just 5 years ago, that's a tremendous jump from where we were. So these are the calls for service that we were talking about. So you'll see when we were in the pandemic, we saw our calls for service drop pre-pandemic numbers, we were over 60,000 calls for service. We saw a drop. 2023, we're back up to 56,000. I expect that to probably keep climbing. Motor vehicle crashes are a big part of that. Those kind of fluctuate. One of the big things that our fatalities on the streets here in Missoula. We've been averaging about 7 fatalities a year, which is one is too many. So that's incorporated into those numbers. And then, and then the violent crime trend. So one of the things we found while during the pandemic, right around the pandemic, our calls for service number went down, but our violent crime numbers went up. I mean, I'm assuming that's associated with people just being cooped up at home and around each other and getting on each other's nerves. But yeah, our numbers went up. 470 is about that's about what we were averaging pre-pandemic. So.
Can I ask you a quick question about that?
Sure.
Are those numbers in addition to the 56,000, or are they part of?
That's
the
part of the
50, part of the 50? And is the 56,000 just calls to dispatch, or does that also include, like, you pulled someone over for speeding or running a stop light?
Correct.
Okay, so it's not like an actual call;
Right.
it's an event. Like
Proactive citizen contacts by the officer, all that stuff.
Okay, it's called a call.
Yes.
Okay.
It generates a call for
Yeah.
service. So some of the biggest issues we're dealing with right now, fentanyl is huge. I don't know if you guys saw, we just had a public service announcement earlier this week about some fentanyl we recovered. We had gotten a notice actually came over from Spokane PD earlier in the week or earlier last week about some pink fentanyl that they were seeing over there. Within that week, we're seeing it here. I mean, that Spokane's one of our sources of supply areas where it comes from. So it didn't take long, and I think, what are we at, like 7 overdoses this week?
Is that what it was, 7 or 8?
So, yeah, so, and understand too, 7 this week, those are just the ones we know about. There are probably, I don't want to speculate how many more that we don't get called for. So it's a pretty scary issue right now.
Question on that, when you say overdose, does that mean that ended in a fatality, or they overdosed and they were able to be saved?
They're overdosed and were able to be saved. So all of our patrol officers carry Narcan. The amount of times we use Narcan and get saves, bring people back, it's pretty incredible.
One more is this week, 4 doses of Narcan. We're dealing with large volumes.
Quick question. So with fentanyl being such a big concern, is there any thought about bringing any harm reduction into the city, or any like safe use spaces, testing areas, anything like that?
I know it's being talked about. I don't know where we kind of are with that, but.
Yeah, at least in the shelter area, the discussion, the kind of the philosophy at Johnson Street is that if people are under the influence, they're able to be there safely and treat people safely, they generally allow them to stay. So, yes.
Doesn't Open Aid Alliance also, that's a local nonprofit, that'll be like, we know this is in town, they'll put a message out, like we have Narcan, or like you can change your needle out, or I feel like
And they come pick up needles.
they offer
and
some of
stuff.
that support. Yeah.
And now that they've changed the law in the last legislative session about fentanyl, like testing strips is no longer a misdemeanor drug paraphernalia. So I think more county health department, All Nations Health Center, Open Aid Alliance are starting to try to hand out those.
And there's Narcan, basically vending machines at various places around.
So, other issue, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Is Narcan like just for fentanyl, or does that help other people too?
It's an opiate reversal, yeah. So like
heroin. The homelessness issue, I'm sure everybody's aware of, what we're dealing with as far as that goes. The chief's a part of a planning committee for an ordinance. We're working on that. We've got the Johnson Street Shelter, we've got the Poverello Center. There's what's the small the little houses there?
Temporary safe outdoor.
Yeah. Yeah, so we got that, and we're continuing to try to find ways for our officers to be able to respond to some of these camps and, you know, treat people with dignity, but also be able to deal with the public health issues that come along with some of these large urban camps that we find, so, yeah.
What's your engagement with like the homeless outreach team through like the Poverello? But I mean, if there's a call that comes in, or do you still show up and then bring in the hot team, or do you have any?
We can, yeah. I mean, the hot team's a resource for us. If you know, we generally try to use them as much as possible because right now, I mean, there's not really any criminal citations aren't really the route we want to go, and if the hot team can come there and see what other resources these people might need and try to help them get those resources, we find that that's extremely helpful. So we try to use them as much as possible.
So it's always in conjunction. You're still involved with this.
Yeah, we still respond. We still, you know, we got to assess, you know, if there's any criminal activity going on. You know, the like I said, the public health issues, and be there for that. So. And then, like I already talked about this, the serious injury and fatal crashes. Like I said, we've been averaging about 7 fatalities a year, and that's just too many. Reserve Street's a big problem. It's a state highway, so you know, just the volume of traffic and the intersections we see there, it's tough to deal with. So.
Should we move on? And we were all around to answer questions as you know as the night goes on, but we want to be able to keep the presentation moving. So
while she's walking up, would you? There's been body cam conversation in the media lately, and we invested in a new body cam system. So could you give like a 30-second overview of
thanks a million to the council and the mayor for supporting a project that I pitched last year called Axon. Axon is really the industry leader of a really robust body cam, in-car camera, video, digital evidence storage system. It has all kinds of automation and technology built into it that takes us to the where we need to be on video evidence. Our society expects it, and our old system was not reliable enough to have it and put us in a terrible position. So council helped us write a big check to get that, and I'm forever grateful. But I can talk for hours about it later during breakout if you'd like some more detail.
Great. Thank you so much, Chief Assistant Chief. Each one of these departments really could have had their own class. Lots of good stuff that they're doing to serve our community. But now is the fun interactive section of tonight.
So I want to keep this pretty interactive for you guys, but we're definitely here to answer any questions you got on any EMS things in particular. I can help answer for you. My name's Dave. I am the EMS coordinator for the fire department. We got
also Dave. I'm just kidding. My name is Rob. I'm a fire inspector with the department.
Yeah. And then
also Dave.
Cam. Also Dave. Yeah. Cam, firefighter, paramedic.
So we wanted to run you guys through a few kind of scenarios just to kind of see what we're doing out there. And I think we'll just kind of split into 2 groups here. Rob's is going to run you guys through a little tourniquet station, and Cam and I will do a little CPR station over here. Gordy was talking kind of about our save rate on our CPR, which it really is good. We just had a kind of nationally renowned doctor in the resuscitation field, and very impressed with our numbers, and we're right up there with the best people. But one of the big components in the chain of survival is that we have our public trained in CPR, and we're probably a little short on that. We do offer 2 CPR classes per month to the public at the fire department. So it's a huge win for us if we show up on a CPR call and somebody is just simply doing CPR out there for us. Makes all the difference. So people, you got 8 minutes till you start suffering irreversible damages. But as soon as somebody, even just hands-only CPR, starts doing that, that resets that clock, so just buys that person some time. So we've had very good luck out there with our CPR, and we're really trying to push it out there to the public. Have any of you guys taken a CPR class?
Like probably 10,
well, look
like
at the
10
irresponsible
times.
citizens.
Probably 10 times.
Has anybody actually done CPR?
No.
No? Okay, well, we got a pretty lifelike guy over here. And I got a really short time with you guys, but we'd like to let you try some compressions on this, and Cam will kind of give you a briefing on what we're looking for there. Maybe we'll just kind of take this half of the room over to Cam. And then Rob's just going to go through some tourniquet stuff with you. I'll give everybody their own.
What's going on, guys?
Hey, how you doing?
So, anyone has a CPR class before? You've had one. Okay, so almost everyone here. So yeah, like what we're looking for is like 100 to 120 compressions per minute. Some things you can do is you can think of a song like "Staying Alive," which is a good way to do it. And something that's really important too that we want to look for is like good depth and recoil. So you guys know what I'm talking about when I say depth and recoil. So making sure you're getting deep enough, and then you're letting the chest come back enough to allowing it to like refill up with blood. What happens if you don't let it recoil enough is you're not pushing a bunch of blood out into the system. Has anyone ever tried to like flush a toilet like super fast a bunch of times?
I always do, every time.
Right, yeah, and the toilet doesn't fill back up with water. So kind of think of that as the heart, right? Like if you're not allowing the chest to recoil all the way, you're not going to get enough water in there to shoot back out into the system. So we're looking for, 100 to 120 beats a minute. I'd err on the side of going faster than you think. Normally we find that people are going slower when in reality they should be going at a much faster rate. So yeah, we'll do some compressions. We can get some real life feedback on how you're doing and kind of go from there. And if you guys have any questions or anything like that, feel free to.
You know, I've taken CPR many times, and and I guess it's probably through the Red Cross, but I'm not sure. But they changed the compression to the breathing ratio all the time. Which just totally.
So as
we got it simple.
Yeah, so we're doing it. Just don't even worry about breathing. Just CPR. Because the whole goal is to keep blood perfusing to all the vital organs, right?
So the pushing is more important than the breathing.
Much more important, yeah. Don't even worry about the breathing, because by the time that you if you stop compressions just to do like 2 rescue breaths, it takes 15 more compressions to reperfuse that blood to what it was. Like if you're doing 32, you know what I'm saying? So like the more blood you can keep circulating, so specifically in the brain to the heart and all the other organs, the better outcomes are going to happen for that patient. Because
So Cam's little machine there will show how our CPR is, and it'll show us how to get to perfect CPR, which we look for in our firefighters. Any CPR is better than nothing. Bad CPR is better than nothing for people. But if you guys want to take a quick try at this, we can just kind of show you, give you a little feedback on what's going on there.
Go ahead and jump in there.
You go first.
Go to town.
See, that's the spirit.
Pound on the chest.
Oh, wait, hey, hang on a second. I made this club level. Get back up.
Knee pads.
Oh, nice. Yeah, my knees aren't gonna like that.
Yeah.
But if it's on the forearm, you would go above the elbow.
Yeah, because the skin is thinner here, so you get a better.
So your hand placement's good.
You can, and you can put more than one.
Little deeper.
So once you get this on our guy.
So we rotate our firefighters in 2-minute intervals through this. You can tell even with our big CrossFit firefighters, our compressions start to get bad after about 2 minutes of this. So that's a good time point. We look at the rhythm, reassess the patient, and rotate our CPR people in there.
Direct pressure, rapid wound, elevation.
So try and go a little deeper if you can, so you guys can come take a look at this. So this is kind of like her compression rate and stuff like that. So you want to go to that bottom green one right there. So yeah, the speed's good. She's kind of on the upper end, right at 120.
You don't have to keep going.
Good recoil though, but you can see. I mean, even after a couple short seconds of CPR, you kind of really start to lose that quality. So that's why, like Chief Hughes was speaking to it earlier, when we do have like an incident like that, like a CPR, it requires a lot of people just to continue to bump in and bump out to do compressions, right? Because if you have the same person doing compressions, you really lose some of that quality in the CPR.
But if you have an AED, that should bring you back a lot faster.
It depends on like the nature of the arrest, right? So like what caused them to go into cardiac arrest. Early defibrillation, like we were talking about, is huge. when you kind of look into some of those save numbers, yes, the quicker you can get an AED on someone and get the patches on, those are associated with like higher survival rates. But you know, kind of if you look at the numbers, people who have like immediate bystander CPR initiated, like the amount of times where you'll see that person like actually walking out of the hospital is quite bigger than someone who's like, I guess what I'm trying to say is like definitely don't delay CPR to go get it. But like if you're doing CPR and there's people around and you can say like, hey, someone go grab the AED, like that's another great thing.
But you guys have an AED?
Yeah, we have like basically they're called Life Pack 15s. It's basically like it has an AED feature, and then you can like look at the rhythm and kind of pick how much electricity you want to use and stuff like that. So, who's next?
So what is an AED?
An auto external defibrillator. So it's like AED. You can go ahead. All right, go bananas.
That's all right.
And if you'll sort of lock out your arms a little bit, and then just kind
of use your back. It's not in the arms really. You want to use your own body weight to kind of compress.
Yeah, that looks good.
Your speed's good. Let's deeper and more recoil.
And this guy's a little bit stiff for CPR compared to a lot of people.
It depends. Like if there's
a little deeper
sticking out of here or something like that, you can place try to manage it.
And this CPR really works on like somebody who's healthy enough to be like one of us out here, healthy enough to be out walking around, and we all of a sudden drop. Works great on that, and that's where we have our good recovery rates. If I'm 80 years old, sick in bed, that's not really where this is going to be successful.
Beautiful. So just like that.
It's kind of one of our issues with the doctors not getting like DNRs.
So yeah, that's all right.
out
We
to
do
us
that
when
for
we
2 minutes
get
straight.
older, 'cause everybody's like, I got to do CPR. At some point, it's like, well, it's not. There's not going to be a good outcome.
So that's why the more firefighters we can have kind of bumping in. And
does anybody else want to give it a try over here? Should I rotate us?
On my knees.
Anyone else? No? Does anyone have any questions on anything?
I always heard you're supposed to crack ribs when you do CPR.
Yeah, you will feel like some ribs cracking. It's a pretty violent procedure. It's definitely not like, it's pretty invasive.
Yeah, I mean, I've been trained, I don't know, at least 10 times out of something crazy and never.
Yeah.
Did you ever have like somebody to perform on?
Well, when you get trained, there's like a dummy. Not as high-tech as this guy.
Yeah, that's what I remember too.
Yeah.
It was a long time ago.
Right, but not high-tech where they were like saying what you're supposed to do.
Yeah, this guy can talk, scream, whatever we want out of him. Pretty good training.
Yeah. Should we rotate?
Yeah, let's rotate the stations.
It's like my first CPR class.
Thank you. My name's Robs. These are tourniquets. Are you guys familiar with these at all? Not so much?
I've
Okay, that's
heard
fine.
about
So a tourniquet is a device used to stop the flow of arterial bleeding. So the bright red blood that your heart is pumping out. You got some pretty big arteries that run through our body, and you'll be able to identify an arterial bleed, right? Because it's pumping, and if it's not stopped, your body can bleed out in a matter of minutes. So a tourniquet is our best stop for that. These ones are called combat application tourniquets. They were designed by the military. They're intended to be self-applied. That's why they're so simple and easy to use. So there's a strap and a stick and kind of a keeper mechanism here. So you can put this on if you have a big cut. Apply this with one arm. So give it as tight as you can on there. And then twisting the stick is going to do that circulation cutoff maneuver. And then it'll fit right in this little keeper. And then the Velcro closure will go over the top, and there's a little time stamp on there. And the reason that's important is because surgeons only have a matter of time, hours maybe, so they can save this extremity before you have to amputate it. So you write the time the tourniquet was applied on there. Because it could be, if we're in the back country, it might be hours before you get to surgery. And you'll know it's on because your hand starts turning.
Yeah, that's for us. And
So, simple design, easy to use.
Yeah, we rotated.
Just hands only, no breathing.
You guys have any questions about that? Awesome, so you can
I have a
practice.
dumb question. Sure. So, like this person, well, so if you had a cut right here, you would put the tourniquet above.
Above, yes.
Right,
Yes.
not below.
Correct.
Right, okay.
Very good point.
I was actually, I
And
remember
tourniquets,
being
you can see it's only an inch and some change wide. If If one doesn't stop the bleeding, you can put 2 on. So if this guy has a, it's a good example because he doesn't have a left arm. So we would stop this bleeding right away. So what we would do is get here on scene is direct pressure until somebody grabs that tourniquet and applies the tourniquet. And if we let go of that pressure and it's still bleeding, put another tourniquet on right above the first one. So you guys can give this a try on yourself, put it on your arm, put it on your leg, crank it down, feel that circulation cut off. Did you catch the spiel? Do you need a little?
Okay. Too fast.
Refill? Okay.
Too fast.
Yeah.
Too fast. Too fast.
Bro. Let's go.
Yes. Give it a couple twists.
Those are fantastic impressions.
And the tighter you put on that Velcro strap, the less you'll have to twist, right?
Something like this be good to have, like, if you're like backpacking in the
Yes,
backcountry.
that's a great idea.
We don't have this in our,
Yeah, first aid kit.
Yes, you should get one.
might be helpful. Yeah.
Uh-huh. And you can find first aid kits that do come with these. I mean, they've been around for a while, but they're not old. So yes, a worthy inclusion to your outdoor recreation kit for
Yeah, 'cause
sure.
it's so
Yeah.
light.
Yeah.
And you could use it to carry your water bottle.
If you wanted to. Usually they fold up and kind of live, you know, about like this. They're in a little plastic, like you can imagine. And you can put it in an inside pocket, outside pocket, kind of handy. Everyone's issued these in the military. We've got one on every single one of our engines.
I mean, who carries as far as a commercial? Shields or something like that?
Oh man, that's a good question. I think you could find them anywhere, any sporting goods store, I would assume, or the internet machine. You can find them online. Yeah, so let's give us a try on our dummy here. Put one on his leg, put one on his arm. Try this side to side.
Okay.
All right.
I
got to do compression, so.
I mean, whatever's comfortable for you. I mean, I kind of like to go from the nip. Yeah. Or a little lower than this.
Okay.
You can do like make a fist with one hand. Okay. Those are a little slower.
How do you know when to stop?
Well, when the bleeding stops, that's how you know in real life. For our mannequin purposes, you just give it a couple twists until it feels like we got enough resistance there.
Yeah. Right there.
Like if you're real scary.
You're alive!
Yeah. Did you save him?
I did. Took me a little bit of coaching, but we got there.
Alright.
Yeah, we got to the right rhythm.
Good tourniquet action.
Well, we appreciate everybody being trained up on CPR out there.
So out of curiosity and like having that the class, so I'll look it up. But if you encounter that, do you recommend
So tuck this, just move this little, just a Velcro tab that goes on top of it.
So you like,
And then that
I
can go
know
inside
that
the little
circulating
keeper.
blood.
And so it's hooked like this, so no matter which way you twist it, right or left, it's still gonna find its home there.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
For savable people.
And hopefully you don't feel a pulse at this point.
So you don't recommend any super
No, it's not in the city for sure.
That was great. Did you guys have any questions? I'm fast and furious on this thing, but.
No, we have this extensive backpacking first aid kit, and we never have the right crap. And we've got a lot of stuff, but it's never the right stuff. But then, just thinking
Yeah.
about this,
Yeah.
like, this would make a big difference.
Yeah, it's a great idea. Put one or two of them there.
That drowning going after that airway a little quicker. I'm sure those compressions are gonna do a ton of good for that drowning.
Okay.
Just getting that.
Car accident, we go on them all the time. All right. Motor vehicle accident, or an MVA. I'll just refer to it as an MVA, that's what we go by always. We get on scene, we stabilize the vehicle, okay?
By stabilizing the vehicle, we're just stabilizing the tire so it doesn't roll on us. I'm checking the ignition to see if the car is off and in park and the emergency brake is on, okay? At that point, my firefighters are going around and they're checking all the plastic inside here for airbags. We don't want to be cutting where an airbag is, cartridge. And we're cutting seat belts at the same time, okay? And we're checking on patients and seeing who needs what and what we need for patients, okay? That's all happening in like 1 minute, okay? So we got the car stabilized, okay? We know we got to remove these two doors. We have 2 patients in here. Do I have any volunteers who wants to be patients today? 2 patients? Anybody? Okay. Okay.
He can go, that's fine.
Well, we can do 3.
No, go
we can
ahead.
do 3.
Go ahead.
Well, you'd have to say, no, okay, two
That's
patients.
fine, go ahead.
All right. Get it on. All right. So we're just going to show you what it's going to sound like inside the car, and then you have any eyeglasses for. Okay. Put you in the back. Go ahead. Make sure you cover up real good when you start getting all of it. Okay, so we're just going to pretend that these 2 doors we cannot open. Okay, like it's been T-boned. All right? We got 2 patients, a driver and someone in the back.
Really quick.
What's
really
that?
quick, if you're like T-boned and let's say the driver, it's like kids in the back or whatever,
Yeah.
and the driver can't move or do
Yeah.
anything, how do you get the car, the ignition off? And like if you're like, if it's stuck in your jaws of life, how do you
Well, I'm going to show you that.
do all that
so
stuff?
we can't really demonstrate that right now because
Sure,
this
sure,
car
sure.
is actually a really nice car.
Yeah.
Something I would probably drive. But I would just reach in there as best I can and I would just see if the key, if I could turn the
Like
key
you
on.
break the window and reach in there?
Yes. And if it's
Yeah.
T-bone, usually it's broken
The window's
anyways.
already broken,
But
okay.
let's say it's not, I would break the window.
Yeah.
I'd have them cover
So that
up.
you could,
I would try
you
to
could
cover
do
them
the
up.
thing.
And I would try to move the seat. I would try to move the seat back before we start cutting batteries. Okay, that's what we're going to do next. Is once we get everybody's seat situated, the windows rolled down best we can. Then I'm going to open the hood here. Hopefully it's going to open. If not, we're going to have to pry it open. And then we're going to cut the battery. Okay, red first, black next. Okay. Now that we got that all done, we need to access these patients. We're going to break the windows, okay? Because I can't roll them down. I can't because the battery's dead. Okay. So Emily, go ahead and break the windows. You go ahead and hide your face. And then she's going to pull all the glass out of the car like that so it doesn't get on the patient. And usually we do put tarps on them if we can. Okay. Now we're trying to get, we're going to try to get patient contact and see what they need. And we're going to stick people in the car if we can, like airway stuff, whatever, bleed control. Or the side of the vehicle might be impinged in their side, like a piece of metal. Okay, that's why I don't want to be rocking the car, banging crap all over the place. I want to do the best job I can for the patient. That's kind of changed over in the last 20 years, by the way, because I was taught all that about just tearing stuff apart. All right,
Then you're just like,
this window, go ahead and try to break that, Em. Okay, good. Why is that not breaking? Huh?
do they have stronger glass on the driver?
It's laminated.
Oh, laminated.
Just like the front windshield now. So they started doing this in the 2000s. They started laminating the drivers and the passenger windows so they don't break on them. Great. Or heads don't break through. Now your head's flopping around getting cut off, right? They should have did that 60 years ago, but it takes time to do stuff. Okay, so both doors are locked. We're going to try to open these up by doing a double V removal. Just kind of try to watch the best you can. Go ahead. This is going to be called a vertical crush, so watch your eyes a little bit. Now when we get on scene to a car wreck, we use gloves, helmets, eye protection, and PPE, okay? So we don't get cut up, or blood, or if something happens bad. so what she's doing here, she's making a purge point so she can get her spreader tip inside that door over there so she can open the door. Like I said, the car is damaged, it will not open. These weigh about 45 pounds, they're not light.
Battery operated.
But these new battery operated ones are so nice for us now. We don't have to have hydraulic lines laying around us. We got these about 8 years ago. For 3 of them, they're about $15,000 for one set. But it just saves us so much time and effort now, because if we need to take this down an embankment or whatever, we can do that. We don't have to carry a hydraulic motor with us. And they work in about 8 feet of water. So if we have to go down in the river here, we can use these under the water, which is super nice. So these new cars in the last 25, 30 years are made to crush like a tin can, right? So the metal is hard for us to get purchase points on. Kind of miss the old boat. I come out, we just call this leapfrogging. When I come out, I spread my tool all the way open so it's ready for the next go. Okay? So what Emily's trying to do here is separate the B post down low from the rocker panel on the vehicle.
Those little tools that they sell now to break your window and you're in the driver's seat, there's not going to work anymore, is it?
No.
You don't have to climb in the back seat to get out if you were in the water.
That's correct. All right. I like those big pops. I like those. Those are good for me to hear. Okay? She moves. Nice job there. Just get it. What's that? Okay, we'll see. Okay, so those big pops that you heard before were the hinges on the door. this way you get a better look at it, though. You okay up there? You guys good? Oh, you don't? Okay. Okay, this door is giving us some fits right now. That bottom rocker panel, keep doing it, keep doing it. So every door is a little bit different. Well, we can get, okay. Well, that other guy is he okay? So he escaped. So this is just plastic. Okay. So there we go. So we got both doors out of the way, we got the B-posts out of the way, and now we can get a backboard in there on this patient and get this patient turned around and laid down and taken out. That's it. Now, you just never know what you're going to get with the bottom door. The rocker panel, the rocker panel stayed with it. First time I've seen that, actually. But our tools were able to get it anyway. Our spreaders, any idea what they'll spread? How many pounds? Anybody have a clue? 185,000 pounds.
185.
So that is the weight of a train car, like one of their cargo, you know, like a coal car. That's the weight of one of those. So we can pretty much lift anything off anybody. But compression like this is 12,000 pounds. So we can hook a chain on this end, hook a chain on this end, and move a steering wheel dash up. Or move a car if we had to, which we don't use that usually for that, but we could. We could. That's it.
You got two more groups. Where's the other car?
Well, we're gonna do a dash roll on one side. So a lot of the car wrecks we go on if they're rear end wrecks or head-ons, their feet and legs are smashed in the bottom, like just crushed. And we need to get the dash away from them. So we'll cut here. Well, you'll see when we're done. You'll be able to see it, but we'll cut the A-post here, cut the windshield a little bit, smash here, And then we'll put a tool in here and we'll roll the dashboard up, try to get 8 to 12 inches of room to work and get the pedals away from their legs and feet.
Take like the spreader?
Yeah, we can use the spreader or we can use the ram over there too. They both work good. So.
5 minutes. Anybody wants to operate a tool?
Oh yeah. Does anybody want to cut? Anybody want to cut anything?
Yeah, I want to cut something.
Okay, here. You can cut this plastic. Now the tools weigh about 45 pounds. You operate them right up here.
Okay.
Is that a variable speed then?
No, it's just one speed. Well, I mean, no, it's variable. No, it's variable. Yeah, yep. Just this plastic right here. Yep. Other way. Okay, there you go, just like that. There you go. Now, what we teach is that you compress those things all the way until they completely cut. Period. Because there's too many times where you just go like 3/4 of the way, and you're like, oh, I got it, and then you let go, and there's this little piece of metal.
Yeah, it wasn't actually all the way down. Oh,
Yeah.
I didn't cut it the whole way.
I know.
Yeah.
I know.
It wasn't totally down.
That's okay. That's okay. I didn't want to yell at you.
I was gonna go back and keep talking.
You want to try?
Finish my cut. Yeah, finish there.
Okay, and so with those, well, you can put it on the. Just a little bit. You don't have to. Oh no, it's not straight. It's not straight. No, gotta be straight on the ground. Okay, you want to use this? Yeah. Okay, pick it up. Open them up. Okay, put them in. All the way. All the way. Okay, now speed it up. Now let the machine do the work. Do not force it. It'll cut it. Oh, nice. Now open them back up. And there's your souvenir for you. Anybody else? You want to try? You got those gloves, ma'am?
Yeah.
Thank you.
How many hours you get out of it?
30 minutes it'll last on one battery.
Wish you had extra hours.
We have 6 total batteries, so we have 1 extra per unit on the engine that are always charging, and we have 1 battery that's plugged into a cord. It's on a cord. Oh, hold on. Hey, Ann, you got those glasses? Does anybody have those glasses?
Hey, 1 minute, better.
1 minute, okay, perfect. Yeah, just let the tool work. These hydraulic tools are a must-have. A must-have. The other hydraulics that are on power lines, they could only lift 38,000 pounds. These lift 185,000. Guys. Nice work.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Yes, sir. Thank you. Yeah. Yeah.
I have a quick question about, so you disconnect the battery or you put battery cables. What about many charging of the battery? Do you actually go and disconnect that battery anyway? Or is there
You try to.
Yeah.
We try to.
Better than having airbags.
I mean, even cutting the power to the fuse box, like trying to find the brains of the operation and cut the power. If that's what you only find, that's what you do.
Yeah. It just seems like really tough to know every vehicle.
It is. I wish everybody drove an old Ford. It would just be easy. It'd be like, hey, it's on fire, put it out.
Yep.
There's a battery. No, it's getting tougher and tougher with all these EV cars. It's just getting tougher on us to mitigate the problem.
Do you get special training on how to cut power to EVs?
Yeah, I remember actually putting a class on this fall. I'm going to be doing that with another rescue team guy on that. I have not done all my research on that yet. I don't have it all put together yet. That's coming up in September. So I did it last time with like 5 years ago, our EVs and stuff. They've changed. They changed so fast. I mean, everybody's making one.
Is your training yourself dependent on you researching yourself, or you get sent somewhere else?
Oh yeah, so they do have classes that you can go to, and I have tried to go once already, but it was full. So Spokane's our closest one. Spokane does sells these tools. The dealers over there, the Hearst tool. So I'm going to try to get back over there this coming up summer for the EV portion of it.
The city pays for that.
I hope so. Yeah. They better.
I apologize. I must be allergic to firemen because I'm losing my voice. So I'll try to speak up. Thanks for coming. Real quick, for those I haven't got a chance to meet, my name is Mike Hammer. I'm a lieutenant at the City Police Department, and I got two responsibilities. My primary job is the patrol division, where I oversee things like K-9, where you haven't seen them yet, you get to see them next, I think. School police officers, stuff like that. In addition to that, I oversee all of our special teams. So that's what we have here. That's our explosive ordnance guys, that's our SWAT guys, that's our crisis negotiation team, okay? The way I kind of like to do this, I'll give you like just a real quick rundown of why we exist and what we kind of do, and then I want you guys to split up and talk to these guys, see the equipment, see the van, see all that stuff, so that we can get more of a one-on-one interaction and answer some questions that way, okay? So, special teams exist very simply for those high-risk, low-frequency situations. Yes, firemen are noisy. So, and what I mean by high-risk, low-frequency are things that don't happen very often, but when they do happen, they're extremely dangerous, and they're usually beyond the capabilities of the patrol officers that would have responded with the original 911 call. Those are things like barricaded suspects with high-powered rifles, hostage situations, counterterrorism, dignitary protection, stuff like that. Those are things that patrol guys aren't typically trained or equipped to deal with. That's where special teams come in. We can try to communicate with crisis negotiation to effect a safe arrest or a safe hostage release. We can use technology and training equipment from special teams to make the problem safer, to use chemical munitions to try to displace that individual and resolve it safely so we don't have to use force or confrontation. Our explosive ordnance guys kind of cross both fields. I just found out they got a really cool robot that's brand new that opens doors. So I'm going to use them a lot with SWAT now because they can come open stuff for me. But then they also deal with any type of homemade device where people try to make a bomb to hurt somebody, or if you find dynamite at your grandfather's barn or something like that. These are the guys that'll deal with that. Okay. So, do we have any immediate questions right now? Otherwise, I want to break you guys up. Yes, sir.
How many times do you hold out?
It depends. So,
for the year.
Again, it depends. So, 2022 is probably our peak, where we had 11 actual tactical deployments in the field plus 18 additional call-outs inside of about 10 months. Whereas in 2023, we've had 15 activations, but all of those have been resolved peacefully before we got there. So then we went back. So we haven't actually deployed tactically fully in about the last 8 or 9 months. It goes through waves. And that's part of the reason why we have to continuously maintain and train, because we don't know when we're going to be needed or not. So.
Are you regular police officers when you're not out?
Yep. So all special teams are a collateral duty. So everybody here has another job. Sergeant Frankie with our explosive ordnance is a patrol sergeant. Sergeant Kenny Smith, who's our SWAT team leader, is a patrol sergeant. I'm a patrol lieutenant, who's the special teams commander. Corporal Candy McKinstry is a patrol corporal, so he would be rendered now the sergeant. He's one of our SWAT squad leaders. And then Sergeant Megan Milbury, our crisis negotiation team leader, is also our field training officer sergeant. She oversees the field training officer program as well as the school resource officer sergeant. So we all have full-time jobs.
So then you have travel time. So if you're out patrolling, you have to call again, come back and get all your stuff.
So we keep all of our equipment in an equipment vehicle in one large truck, and then we send one person to get that truck and bring it to us. Okay, so these guys would respond with whatever they have with them, and then they would start dealing with the problem when they first got there. Everything else is coming to them. So, okay. All right, if there's no more immediate questions, I really want to break you guys up so you can see the equipment and start asking questions. There's no specific order. Anybody that wants to start with explosive ordnance, please feel free to meet with Sergeant Frankie. A couple people can stay here, and then we'll take some people out to see the negotiation band, and just feel free to move back and forth as you see fit. Ask questions. Okay? Perfect. Anybody want to start with the band? They're going to be happy to show you. And definitely.
You like to see this guy? So this is one of our tower pillars. As you can see, it has video on the front. The cool thing about this is if we can't communicate with a person because their phone's off or anything, or they're not talking back to us, I actually can, like if you were hiding, I could drive it up to you and I can turn this on and you and I can have a conversation. You can talk to the radio, it comes right out here, and I can talk to you. So we can hopefully resolve it as a negotiation and get you guys out of the house or whatever else we need to. This thing will go over a lot of different materials that will get anything else stuck. It goes upstairs, it goes downstairs. It has infrared, so if it's pitch black outside, we can see body heat and all that kind of stuff. If we find like an explosive or anything, which obviously this is great. So, because the old way of doing things is, guy won't come out, just put people inside and deal with it. Now this keeps us extremely safe. Like I say, you know, my parents still live here. They love that we have this kind of equipment because I can search out. I'd rather have this blow up than me or one of my friends. My favorite thing though is that we can talk to people if we can't communicate with their phone. And we can locate them in which area of the house. If there's like one person, well, I can essentially cut off half the house and be like, oh look, I found him. He's right here, and then we can streak that problem and go from there. And then hopefully we can just deal with it and come out and call it. And then also with this thing, we have like the little flying drones that you see. We've had a lot of problems with them getting caught in the wind, like trying to get them indoors and everything. They're pretty flimsy. So we can actually attach to this, drive this in the house, fly one of those from out, and like look in crawl spaces and all that kind of stuff. So I can show you this. So this is great. We can go to thermal. There's no one over here, but as you can see, it'll pick up all the heat signatures. And if I want to look around, you can see this little head here. I can turn it anywhere, we can look up, and then the zoom on it. Oops, sorry. The zoom is extremely good and clear. So we can find a lot of things by using this, which is just amazing what it can do for us. The main thing for us is all safety and shutting it down before it gets anything bad.
Does it ever, like, well, first of all, have you used it very much? And then, like, does it ever scare the person?
I don't know if it's, I'd say,
or do they try to destroy it?
We haven't had that yet, thankfully. We try to use all our like drones and everything as much as we can. So we try to use them every day. Sometimes it doesn't get to that. Sometimes we show up and they're like, oh, SWAT team's here, I'm done. Or if they really don't want to come out, we use what we call CS gas. People give up pretty fast after the gas, essentially tear gas, and then they come out and then they're pretty much done. I don't know, I've never asked them if that's intimidating. I'd say one of us is more intimidated than that, but I can't speak for everybody. I've never been like, hey, is that scary? I think a lot of people now, because of movies and stuff, kind of see robots are like, there's probably a camera, like our little guy over here, you could put like a trash can over it, but they're extremely quiet. And they're, yep. And we can like, if I thought a guy might be in a room, I can just toss him out. And then we have that other little screen there. Pretty quiet. Pretty indestructible. But another one we can this one, but it's also if we're clearing one hallway and you can shut this behind us to make sure that guy's watching that so no one can get in trouble. So, it's just, we haven't, when did we start using this, like 2 years ago?
Yeah, we got the robot in 2020. I think it was June of 2021. Or no, we ordered it in June of 21. We got it in August. We got the robot, and then drone for about 6 months after that. We just got this guy last year.
Yeah. So we use this guy. We've used him probably almost every deployment. If someone doesn't want to communicate or come out, this we've used a couple times. The drones are try to use them all the time, but like I said, we were learning about the weather and all that kind of stuff. As far as I'm concerned, they're great for us and great for I think the suspects and keeping us out of harm's way, and then trying to have that open line. It's all about open line communication, kind of like whatever we do, but especially when they're in the house, we're not going to go in. Like you just pick up your phone so we can have a talk. But if they don't want it or don't have a way, we can use this, which is awesome. So, and like I said, like today's world, people are sometimes making bombs and everything, and like I said, I'd rather have that damage that and kill that than one of us. Yeah. So it makes me feel a lot better. So.
And that one's capable of, if I went in a suit, like on a floor like this, it could pull me. So, just different capabilities.
So, how many people are trained to run a patrol? Like, if you're in the suit and doing this, and now you need to get pulled out of the suit by whatever, he knows how to run the thing.
So we train quite a bit. If you're not in actual bomb attack.
Yeah, there's quite a few.
But still, you're talking 4.
Yeah, here. But it's not one and done.
Right. No, he does it all the time. Yeah, absolutely. This robot is our newest one. We could use this also to support whatever SWAT's doing. So if they need a look at the window, for me to go up and break the window, I can use my robot and not put anybody over. I can just go up and break the window, put the camera up in there, and just sit there with the camera for hours.
And so, there's a camera on.
Put it on front. Slip your arm over here. That's the opening. Go. So snap that up to there.
Got that way on. Now you're ready to go.
Yeah, no, I love this.
It's Instagram official, right?
Yeah, we like to mess with each other because all you gotta do is take these off is pull them out.
Yeah, don't do that when you have your full gear on and someone
thinks they're funny.
You want to try one on? Okay. Yeah, so. Yep, there you go. Put that in there. Put that over. There you go. And then pop that around. There you go. There you go. You should both have it good. Yeah. Put this guy on. Then you can really feel the weight. So we don't always wear it. Yeah, there you go.
I don't need my picture.
That one would normally be inside. I'm sorry.
Oh, wait. Well,
all right, there you go.
Okay. Oh, got it. She's trying to hit this ball. Okay. 1, 2,
with the City Police Department. I am the city's designated DUI enforcement officer. So my primary functions in the city are going and interdicting DUI. It's a really rewarding job. I've been doing it for a few months. A little bit about me, I guess. I've been a police officer here for 3 years. I'm not originally from here. Like a lot of other people, I just happen to find myself in Missoula somehow, some way. Got out of the military, really wasn't sure what to do with my life. Went to school, I don't read so good, or something like that, I don't know. But I just looked for a job that was available that paid similar to what I made in the military and had similar interests, and that's helping people. I ended up getting lucky enough to get on the police department, and here I am today. So after a couple of years, I found out that my passion is enforcement of DUIs. The really neat thing about DUIs is that not neat thing I should say, but the enforcement of them is that they don't just impact one class of people in socioeconomic group. It impacts everybody and everything, from pets to people to property. DUIs have an impact on those things. So being able to work in that realm every day and have that be my primary function right now has just been really rewarding. So as you can see right here, we have this neat car. It looks a lot different than my partner's over there. This one's black, has no lights on the top. There's a reason for that. I like to be sneaky. Right? People who are under the influence of whether it's alcohol or drugs, they're not really too prone to catch it sneaky. All right? So it's fun for me to be able to hide out and make sure that people are doing the right thing. And it allows me to sit in certain advantageous positions to hopefully interdict those DUIs before they get to be in the busier areas of town, or really realistically anywhere. So the other interesting thing about this car is that this is entirely funded by NHTSA, the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration. So nothing about this car came out of your guys' tax dollars, nor does my salary for the year that I'm in this position. So it's kind of a neat deal. NHTSA was gracious enough to take those federal funds, give them to us so that I can do the things that I'm passionate about. As far as the car is concerned, there's really not too much about it. It's your standard police car. So just gonna open up the back here. There's seats, there's seat belts. So that's where people go. I don't know how in the world, after doing this for almost 4 months now, I've only had one accident in the back where somebody just could not hold their bodily functions. That's okay, that happens. So I cleaned it out thoroughly, I assure you of that, with some very sanitary wipes. So I still don't recommend anybody sit back there. But if you want to sit up front, you sure can. Up front here, very standard police car, got a laptop, got lights. They're kind of fun lights. Kind of low profile, yet really, really bright when you see them. So it is kind of funny to surprise people when I do roll up and investigate one of these things. So one of the stories that I have to tell is very, very true. It was my second day doing this job. I was at Russell and Broadway facing north. I looked over to my right to a gentleman that was in the go straight lane, and he was smoking marijuana in the driver's seat. We got nothing against marijuana, can't do that, just can't have beer in the front seat. So I pulled right up next to him in the daylight. He had no idea I was there. Thought it was hilarious. So I looked over at him kind of like this. He looked at me kind of like, I just told him to pull it. We had a talk and we figured it out from there, but it is kind of a neat thing to do. So if anybody has any questions about the car, I can certainly answer them, but what I'd like to do real quick is I'll roll into some of our instruments here. Some of the things that aid my investigations. Anybody ever seen Cops or TV shows, seen one of these with a little straw on it, and an officer pulls it up somebody's mouth, tells them to blow into it? Anybody seen these before? Yeah. This is an Alco sensor. All that this is a portable breath test, right? So what this instrument does here is I turn it on and somebody provides a sample if they want to. It will just determine their breath alcohol content and give me a reading that will aid in my investigation to determine whether somebody's potentially too impaired to be driving, okay? But one of the recent endeavors in Montana is the legalization of marijuana, and that's been a pretty odd deal. It's really difficult to detect marijuana impairment. However, I have seen a significant increase. I couldn't get the statistic right now because I was very last minute to this thing and I did not know what to prepare. I also am not very good at Excel. But anywho, this instrument right here is called the Sotoxa Portable Drug Test Kit. This is a I would say relatively new technology, and it's been great. I was very skeptical about it at first. What this is this is a saliva sample roadside test. So if for any reason I have indications that somebody's impaired by anything other than alcohol, I can have them take this little stick here that looks kind of like a sucker, but I assure you it does not taste like a sucker. I've tried it. There's nothing tasty about it. But what it does is it collects saliva, and it'll pool into this little section here. Once I have enough of that, I'll take this little fella here. As you can see, it's got some liquid in the back here, and it's kind of hard to see for everybody else. I don't know what that's called. I think I just call it science water. since I'm a police officer and I have no idea what's behind it. But I'll take this little test kit here and I'll insert it into this instrument. Once the saliva sample is adequate enough, I'll take that from those individuals if they so choose to provide it, and I'll put it in here. Then I'll pop that little capsule, the science while we're doing science stuff, and then this instrument will analyze everything that's the contents of that. This thing is really neat. It tests for a myriad of different things: cannabis, central nervous system depressants such as alcohol, or other CNS depressants, central nervous system stimulants such as methamphetamines, amphetamines, benzodiazepines, codeines, all kinds of stuff. So this thing's really, really neat. Because before, when we were doing these things, you just kind of have to rely on your training and your gut, but we're not physicians. You know, we're humans. We're doing our best out there to make sure everybody's safe. So this instrument's been really valuable. These are about $4,500 a piece. Sorry, go ahead.
Well, I just have a question about things like benzodiazepines, things that are legally prescribed to people. So does it give you a level, or does it just show presence or no presence?
Yep, that's a good question. It basically just shows the presence or no presence, or a positive or negative, okay?
So you base a potential arrest on their behavior?
So there's a lot of factors that go into that, and that's what's called, more or less in our industry, the totality of the circumstances, right? So anybody that takes their medication as prescribed could potentially be under the influence, but if they're not driving around all crazy, or there's not an accident, or there's no reason for me as an officer to make contact with them, then hey, there you go. But if it does end up in that totality of circumstances where, say I respond to a crash, a car accident, and I look at this individual and they're obviously not acting right, well, my first instinct is, well, we better get medical personnel here. They just got an accident, what if they're hurt? Well, if medical personnel come by and they assess them doing their thing, way outside of my purview, they might hand them back to me at that point. I might go, we got to maybe figure some other stuff out here. So, 'cause that's the really interesting thing about DUIs is, like I said, it doesn't just affect one group of individuals, it affects everything: people, places, animals, property. It's kind of a wild deal. But that instrument's more so just aid in my investigation, not necessarily have me make an arrest determination based off what that does. So hope that answers your question. Yes, ma'am?
There's a local company called Gaze. Are you guys doing any work with them? It's rapid eye movement detection, and they're being deployed like around the country, and they can detect like, you know, alcohol, all the different drug classes that you were talking about, and it puts on and it scans the rapid eye movement and then gives you the.
I do believe I've seen those. I had no idea that was a local thing.
Yeah, it's actually a local startup. They're really cool, and they've gotten a lot of funding, and they're working with drug testing centers and like truckers and police and whatever. Well, what a choice. They're local and they're really cool.
Just like every place across the country, law enforcement, emergency services are often fall kind of behind the curve, and they're always playing catch up.
Yeah.
I'm sure this community is
say
wonderful.
It's been hard. To get into law enforcement.
This community is great. I'm sure we'll have that come across, and if that's just one more tool to aid in my ability to help people stay off the roads and get those people off the roads, and that would be great.
So I'm Officer Champa. I'm with the Missoula Police Department. I'm a canine handler for the department right now, the only one. Our senior handler just took a detective position, so it's just me right now, and my partner Zip. Zip is a 3-year-old, almost 3, like in 4 days, Belgian Malinois from Slovakia. We imported him from Europe, and then I went and met with him at Shallowsley Kennels in Pennsylvania, which is where I got trained to be a handler. Zip is a dual-purpose dog, so that means he can find narcotics, meth, heroin, and cocaine. He can also track, find evidence, do article searches, building searches, and bite apprehension. The nice thing about a dual-purpose or an apprehension dog is I can send him in during certain crimes into, say, a big building where we know the suspect's there. After I've given multiple announcements and we have a good perimeter, I can send him in and he can locate the guy without sending officers in where we might get ambushed. He'll go in, he'll find him fast because he uses his nose, and it keeps us safe. And then once I hear him engaged in, you know, an apprehension or a bite, we go in safely and get him off as fast as we can, plus take the person in custody. He's essentially a pain compliance. I have to know all the case law being a handler and all the new case law that's coming out. The big one for us is Robinette v. Barnes. That just means that our police dogs are not considered lethal force. Because of the amount of training these dogs go through, we train them to target arms and legs mostly. And that's all we train in training. Sometimes, like if the suspect's running and is tucked up, and stuff, they'll target the back or anywhere they can. We don't allow them to target the head in training. If it happens on the street, the suspect obviously has done something to dictate that that's where the dog bit. But we don't train head bites in training at all. It's always arms and legs for us. He's very busy because he's the only canine right now, so my days off, I don't really have days off, I get called out quite a bit, whether it's to assist our narcotics unit with interdiction on the interstate or, you know, serving lots of search warrants. I think this year alone we've got almost 30 deployments, and that's since January. The other night I had 6 deployments in one night, so it comes in waves. I'll bring him out in a little bit. We're gonna just do a quick bite demonstration. That's one of the sleeves we use. Yep. That doesn't, as a handler or a decoy, that sleeve is great because you don't feel anything. It's hard, it's made so the dog can bite. You'll feel a little bit of the pressure, but you don't get marks on your arm. We also have other sleeves that we'll wear that are hidden sleeves that hurt. That's the person getting bit. It doesn't, you don't get the punctures, but you still bruise, and it's good for the dogs because we're training them that they can bite essentially through a sweatshirt and they don't see the equipment. The dog, like when I pull Zip out, he's gonna be so happy and locked on that, especially because this is now the 4th one we've done. So he's gonna be super happy. He's like, oh, I get to bite another one. Realistically, for our dogs, we're about 95% narcotic sniffs, and 5% of the time it's an apprehension. And out of that 5%, I would say in Zip's career so far, he's only had 1 bite. A lot of times people see the dog and give up because they're like, I don't want any part of that thing. And I don't blame them.
She had it on. I was like, what did you do?
Zip off. So this is Zip. Obviously he knows the game. He's fully focused. Hey, you good for a send from here? So part of being a handler, we have to have good obedience. So as you can see, like I have no pressure on the leash. He's just maintaining that down until I give him the command. Missoula police, you're under arrest. I'm gonna send the dog, he will bite you. Missoula police, you're under arrest. I'm gonna send the dog, he will bite you. Last warning, you are under arrest. I'm gonna send the dog, he will bite you. Stop! Good boy. And so you can see, he's trained to bite that one spot and just hold it. So he's punching in the same spot over and over and over. Alright, you can flip on the next one. There you go. Good boy.
Yeah, I'd give up pretty quick.
Now he's got a trophy. So he's happy. Go for it. Come here. I'm gonna put him up and then I'll come answer questions. Come. So that was Officer Holmgren who just took the bite. She's gonna be one of the, I think we have 4 guys, gals, that are putting in for the next handler spot. So that dog will be up and running, hopefully end of August, if all goes well.
A new dog.
A new dog. Yep. So we had to, like I said, Todd Horton, who was instrumental in helping me get up and running, just took the detective spot. So and his dog retired. His dog was 10 and a half at the time. So we need another dog because I'm tired of getting called out on my days off, and I don't really have days off anymore. But I mean, these dogs are huge for us. They're a locating tool for the police department. So I mean, they are great at what they do. Their noses are phenomenal. That's why we use them. Any questions? And of course, she's talking to Zip now. They're buddies.
Telling to put in a good word.
Yeah. Well, so I think Officer Kozlowski as well, he's been coming out for 7 months, 6, 7 months, taking bites and helping hide narcotics in vehicles, because part of it is, you know, we're training, but we're also testing the dogs just to make sure they're accurate. So sometimes when we're doing trainings, I don't want to know where the narcotics are hidden in cars, because
I want to make sure Zip is doing what he's supposed to. But then there's other times where, you know, he's kind of getting a little stubborn lately with his final indication, which is a sit. He'll lock up like a pointer dog and just stare at it, and I'm like, you're supposed to sit, come on. So I wait. So like on those instances, I want to know where the narcotics are at, so the minute I see him do that behavior, I can give him the sit command just to train it like, hey, you smell this, you sit, and then you get your toy. So these dogs, they don't know actually what the narcotics are. They think they're finding a toy. So their toys, from the time they were imprinted on the meth, heroin, and coke, have been in with these odors of the narcotics, and so all they think they're finding is a toy on somebody's car.
So when that happens, what reward do they get?
On the street, I don't pay them because there's times where there's odor in a car, like someone has smoked methamphetamine in a car, and there's all that odor, but there's actually no product. In Montana, I can't search a car roadside, so I don't want to pay him if he, you know, sniffs it and then we don't find anything, because then I'm reinforcing a bad habit. Right now, he has not false indicated on any car. Every car that he's hit on has had paraphernalia, plus the driver has said, yeah, we smoked in the car earlier. So he's so far very accurate. Last year alone, it was just me and him last year because our other handler he had a broken leg, and so he was out. We beat the year prior numbers for seizures, just me and him. So.
But then you do give him a toy if he's correct.
In training, I will give him a toy.
And like what kind of toy?
A ball on a string. Let me grab it.
With meth?
Loves it.
Liquid smells like meth?
No, it's just a ball. It's a reward. Just like a dog.
Doesn't actually love it. He's addicted to it at that point.
So this right here is what he works for. He goes absolutely bananas for this toy. And this is what we used to train. So even when we were doing tracking, I'll have someone walk through the grass and go around the corner, put this out of sight. He will track their footsteps, their odor, to his toy, and he's super happy. Like, this is what he lives for. So, any other questions?
Thank you.
Well, I think
nice to meet you.
Yeah.
You guys are done. Thank you so much.
Stop!
Oh.